You're listening to the AstroMommy Daily Horoscope, a forecast that hopes to shine a light in the dark, helping us all see where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. Whether you're a first-time listener or a long-time subscriber, thanks for being here. I truly appreciate you being in the AstroMommy community. I hope you enjoyed today's horoscope and card reading. If you would like to support the AstroMommy newsletter, there are several ways to do so. Subscribe on Substack, share it with a friend, schedule a reading, check out my family's Etsy shop, Metaphysical Flamingo, or just leave a tip. Without further ado, here is the Daily Horoscope. Happy winter solstice. Sun's ingress into Capricorn and Sun square Jupiter. Daily horoscope for Wednesday and Thursday, December 21st through the 22nd, 2022. Good morning, friends. Remember that I will be posting the weekend report and a little bit about next Monday and Tuesday as part of Friday's horoscope due to the holiday weekend. I have decided that I'm going to take next Monday off from posting so that I can work on the individual horoscopes for the upcoming Mercury retrograde, which begins on December 29th, 2022. So next week I will post on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, and Friday's post will be a big one with all of the individual sun rising sign horoscopes for the Mercury retrograde. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or comments. Okay, let's get into the astrology. Wednesday, December 21st, 2022. Today is the winter solstice, marked by the sun's ingress into the sign of Capricorn at 4:48 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to talk about that, but before we do, let's talk about the transits of the moon. The moon made her ingress into Sagittarius super early this morning at 2:12 a.m. Eastern Time, and then immediately formed a trine to Jupiter, now in Aries, at 0 degrees 3 minutes. This is a nice supportive transit between the moon and Jupiter, especially since the moon is in Jupiter's home sign of Sagittarius, and the trine is the nature of Jupiter. This transit is really interesting to me because even though Jupiter receives the moon is peregrine, which means that she has no essential dignity. This is like the moon is in a foreign land and doesn't have any support, but then there's someone dressed like Santa who picks her up and gives her a ride to wherever she's going. So this trine energy with Jupiter is really supportive, especially when the moon may be feeling rather detached and lost at the moment. This may not be a fun sign for the moon to be in during her dark moon phase also, because Sagittarius could be a little nihilistic. There could be the tendency to get caught up in one's beliefs, ironically, so this is where we could see people getting up on their soapboxes and preaching their beliefs to anyone who will listen. And it's possible with the trine to Jupiter that they could have a pretty good audience. The moon makes a semi-square to Mercury at 10:07 a.m. Eastern Time, so this could be a little pessimism coming in and pushing some buttons, but nothing will come of it, so just keep the negativity to yourself. By the afternoon, the sun makes his ingress into Capricorn, beginning the long, cold winter, and the energy shifts from fiery, hopeful Sagittarius to the rather glum and cynical Capricorn. Capricorn is the home of Saturn, and Saturn is a Scrooge, also known as the planet of tests, limitations, and the keeper of time. According to astrologer Christopher Renstrom, quote, "Saturn is the planet of what I fear. The last of the ancient planets, Saturn was the slowest and dimmest of the lights, so he was seen as elderly, burdensome, and melancholic. Saturn's association with the infirmities of old age makes him the planet of fear of being destitute, unloved, abandoned, or incapacitated. Saturn's fears aren't horror movie fears, nor are they catastrophic or apocalyptic. Those troubles belong to other planets. Saturn's reality, grief, pain, and decay, waits for us patiently at the end of our lives, and the knowledge of its inevitability makes us want to do everything we can to avoid going there." Unquote. He goes on to say, quote, "Everyone is afraid of fear. We're so afraid that we don't talk about it. It's why we treat misfortune like a contagion. We don't want to be infected, so we blame poor people for being poor and sick people for being sick. Fear is why we ostracize, demonize, and shame. It hardens our hearts, points fingers, and takes things away from people who didn't have much to begin with. Saturn often gets vilified in astrology, but Saturn's not the one that brings misfortune. On the contrary, Saturn reveals how each of us becomes the author of our own misfortune by showing what fear can make us do." Unquote. So the sun has entered Saturn's realm, and it's not surprising that in the winter, people often fear getting sick, being too cold, or running out of their essentials in case there's a snowstorm or something and they get stuck. Fearing the winter is a real thing. The winter is also beautiful, with its snow-covered trees, icicles dripping off rooftops, and red cardinals alighting on branches outside the kitchen window. Everyone bundled up in warm and cozy hats and scarves, faux fur-lined winter boots, and knitted gloves, hot and steamy beverages, fires in the fireplace, and hearty stews simmering on the stove, bread baking in the oven, holiday decorations, and cheery songs on the radio. Yes, winter is cold and can be a little depressing, but we can make it through. We have the fire from Sagittarius season that holds the flame for us for the whole winter until spring when the sun makes her annual ingress into the fiery sign of Aries. And now with Jupiter in Aries, the ruler of Sagittarius, there is still much hope in the air. The sun now in Capricorn forms a square to Jupiter in Aries at 7:50 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is supercharged initiatory energy. People could really feel like they can accomplish anything with this energy. Projects will be started with the hope of completion. New ideas will emerge and actions will be taken to get things underway. The caution is to be realistic with what you can achieve and use the Capricorn sun to take one step after the other and scale that mountain. About an hour after the sun squares Jupiter, the moon forms an opposition to Mars in Gemini retrograde at 8:46 p.m. Eastern Time. This could be some sort of standoff between family and friends, or you and your lover, or your mother and your spouse, etc. That creates conflict and polarization. It may be hard to avoid this trap as the moon doesn't have a lot of support here. She is off that nice trine to Jupiter and she is on her own this evening. The only supportive aspect that is happening for the moon at this moment is a trine to Chiron, but that could just indicate that the deep wounds are easier than normal to access. So don't let yourself get grabbed by this one. Keep your attitude in check and remove yourself from situations if they get too heated. Come back to talk it out in a few hours when the moon has left this hot spot. By the evening, around 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the moon makes another semi-square, but this time to Pluto in Capricorn, and this could be another tender button that could be triggered. Don't fall for it because it won't lead anywhere. Let's move on to the card for the day. What is the guidance for Wednesday? 9 of Swords. This is a rather depressing card. On this card, we see 9 swords, 5 pointing toward the left and 4 pointing up at the 5 above. The 9 of Swords is about feeling anxious, fearful, and full of worry. There could be some inner turmoil that you are dealing with that is bringing up your deep fears or secrets that are painful to acknowledge. The message of this card is to release these nightmares and learn to bless them and let them go. It's a very fitting card for the dark phase of the moon, which is also about letting things go in order to make room for the new moon energy. So I feel that as the guidance for Wednesday, this card is a reminder to face your fears by working through them emotionally and releasing them to the heavens. The universe knows what to do with all of these fears, and you can stop worrying about them, especially if the situation is really out of your hands anyway. This feels like a Jesus take the wheel moment. Trust in the divine plan and let the universe guide, protect, and provide for you. Thursday, December 22nd, 2022. Most of the transits for Thursday that are perfecting are happening in the middle of the night, if you're in the northern hemisphere. So we could feel some of these energies late on Wednesday, as well as Thursday, and they all involve Uranus and Taurus. The first transit that perfected while we were sleeping is that the Sun in Capricorn formed a sesquiquadrate with Uranus and Taurus at 1:21 a.m. Eastern Time. So this could indicate a surprise delay with something you've already set in motion. It's like you've taken your truck to the mechanic and he's supposedly working on it, but you get a call that he has to wait for a part, and so it's going to take longer than expected. You've done your part, you got your truck to the shop, but now you have to wait for something that is out of your control. A couple of hours later, the moon in Sagittarius made a quincunx to Uranus in Taurus at around 3:30 a.m. Eastern Time. A quincunx is a 150-degree angle, and it symbolizes two forces that don't want anything to do with each other. It is a really interesting transit that often brings change and separation. So this aspect could bring a sudden change or an unexpected separation from something. And with the moon in Sagittarius, it could have something to do with belief systems, religion, or your philosophies about life. Or maybe you decide that you don't want to wait for this mechanic to order the part, and you arrange to have your truck towed to another shop. 1 hour later, Venus in Capricorn forms a trine to Uranus and Taurus, and suddenly your mechanic calls you and tells you that they were able to procure the part after all and for a better price. You call off the tow truck and allow the mechanic to resume working on your truck. Since Venus represents love, relationships, romance, and the sweet pleasures in life, Venus trine Uranus could also indicate unexpected romantic gestures and fun, pleasurable experiences. Maybe your lover wakes you up with hot, passionate lovemaking or breakfast in bed. Throughout the day on Thursday, the energy could really be building up for a new moon in Capricorn, which will perfect on Friday morning at 5:16 a.m. Eastern Time. The moon does form a sextile to Saturn at 1:18 p.m. Eastern Time, so this is a harmonious aspect that could bring up an opportunity that seems to fall into your lap, possibly something having to do with family or kin, but there could be a price involved if you take advantage of the deal, so just make sure you're willing to make the commitment. Then at 3:14 p.m. Eastern Time, the moon in Sagittarius forms a square to Neptune in Pisces, and there could be feelings of dishonesty or deception that don't go unnoticed. With both planets being in Jupiter-ruled signs, Sagittarius and Pisces, traditionally ruled by Jupiter, but in modern astrology, Neptune rules Pisces, there could be some camaraderie here that saves the day, or a push to create something artistic, musical, or full of whimsy. This transit, because it is a square, which denotes action and initiation, Feels actually like it could be a very productive transit for those last-minute gifts you are crafting. Although you could overshoot your ambitions and try to achieve too much and be under some delusion that you can get it all done before the big reveal. So just try to use the Capricorn Sun, Mercury, and Venus influences to stay down to earth and practical with your ambitions and expectations. It's not time to try to sew a quilt 2 days before Christmas. It's just not practical. Try a placemat instead, or a drawstring pouch. You know what I mean? And I'm talking to you, AstroMommy. After this transit, the moon goes void, of course, and doesn't make any more major aspects until she ingresses into Capricorn at 2:49 a.m. Eastern Time, early Friday morning. So this doesn't mean that nothing will happen, it just means that things may not go as smoothly as one would like. It's like the cosmic friction increases when the moon goes void, of course. It reminds me of an experience that my 3-year-old and I had the other day. We had received a delivery of groceries in which there was a very large bag of dog food for our dog. My toddler wanted to carry the dog food to where we keep it, and you can imagine how heavy this bag was and how difficult this operation actually was for my toddler, but she insisted. She pulled and tried to drag it along the wooden floor, but it was hard work. So I put down her fleece sweater, which was close at hand, and put the dog food bag on top of that, and told her to pull on the hood of the sweater to ferry the bag down the hallway. This little trick reduced the friction of the floor, giving my 3-year-old daughter the leverage she needed to pull the dog food bag down the hall with much less effort. So the moon going void, of course, is like extra friction from the universe. As the Renaissance astrologer William Lilly says in his book, Christian Astrology Book 1, quote, "All manner of matters go hardly on when the moon is void, of course," unquote. He didn't mean the modern definition of hardly, which means that nothing at all happens. He meant that things progress with a bit of difficulty, a bit of friction. So there is a bit of cosmic friction that permeates the rest of the day on Thursday, and we just need to apply some lubrication, perhaps literally using physics to give ourselves some leverage so we can actually accomplish our tasks. Let's move on to the card for the day. What is the guidance for Thursday? 3 of Swords. On this card, we see 3 swords pointing upright. The 3 of Swords represents heartbreak, pain, and sorrow. It's a terribly depressing card. It usually means that our feelings get hurt, and sometimes it could mean breakups or divorce, depending on the question at hand. As the guidance for the day, I feel that this is a warning that it could be easy to have our feelings hurt today. People could have piercing words that stab our hearts and inflict wounds. It could also indicate that we ourselves are feeling like causing someone else pain with our words. So just be mindful of this energy and ask yourself how you want this day to be remembered. Do you want to remember a day of hurt, pain, and anguish, and as the inflictor or the recipient of such hurt? Or do you want this day to be remembered as one that you or others had compassion for one another and came from a place of love? With all the Uranus energy permeating the day, I would be mindful of things coming out of the blue that take us by surprise. And with the 3 of Swords coming up, it could very well be hurtful words that suddenly stab us. Do what you need to do to release and let go of these emotions, including crying if you need to, because it's not uncommon for one to need a good cry right before a new moon, which is tomorrow. So this card could indicate that we need to let go of our pain around something or someone in order to move forward, and this release will help us grow as eternal souls. I would love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment. I hope this is helpful. Until Friday, AstroMommy.
Thank you for reading the Daily Horoscope. Quick links and resources can be found at the bottom of the newsletter. Today's card was pulled from the Rolla Nordic Tarot, available on Amazon. If you purchase anything through the affiliate links that I provide in the newsletters, I will make a small commission, but there are no additional costs to you. I don't share or recommend things that I don't 100% believe in and use myself. Thanks for listening.